So yeah, the first talk of a new theme called The Great Escape. The Great Escape, I think we're calling it a fresh take on the Tibetan Wheel of Life, a fresh take on the Wheel of Life. And you've all got a little postcard image on your seats, which is this image here. So in case you can't see this one, you've got your own little one, but you can come up and have a look at the end as well. Okay, so the first talk, The Great Escape. I'll say something first about the title, The Great Escape, the title. First of all, I'll say a question, what are we trying to escape from? What are we escaping from? And we're escaping from being trapped. So we're escaping from our prison, a prison of samsara. So samsara is everyday life as we currently live it, everyday life as we currently live it. So worldly, mundane, conditioned existence as we see it. So samsara is not this physical world. It's not the world that we're living in. It's the way we see things. So it's better actually if it's a verb. We could say that we're samsara-ing rather than it's samsara. So that's what we're doing. And by samsara-ing, we suffer. That's why we suffer. So the Buddha discovered that how we're seeing things in that way isn't how things really are. That's not how things are. And we're trapped in this delusion. We're trapped in this prison, this delusion of samsara. So that's what we're escaping. We're escaping from this delusion of samsara. And the next question, is escaping a good thing? Why don't we just stick around and try and sort it out? So I need to say something about that escape is different to escapism. So escapism is seeking distraction from reality. And that's not Buddhism. We're big on awareness, seeing reality and mindfulness. We're not big on distraction, are we? We're not like, oh, just ignore it and distract yourself, that'll be fine. So it's not escapism, it's escape, and that means to break away. It means to get free. When you look up the definition, get free from danger, get free from prison, for example. And the Buddha saw that we're trapped in this prison of our own delusion. So this central delusion, we've got this central delusion of thinking that we're separate and that we're fixed. So we feel like I'm here, I'm fixed and separate, I'm under threat in some way by an objective, material, external world. We're born and we die. This is how we see things, and we suffer with all of that. So we need to escape, we need to wake up, we need to see reality, see things as a Buddha sees things. So that's what we're trying to do. I think a really good analogy for samsara is a virtual reality game. So it's like we're wearing the virtual reality goggles and we're completely immersed in that virtual world. And in the game, we're really busy. We're busy trying to navigate the virtual world. So we're fighting off attack and we're collecting all the treasures. But whatever we're doing, it's still just stuff in the game. Fighting, conquering, collecting, planning, trying to get it all how we want it to be. We're trying to win at the game. A little story, a little personal story. I did this once. I was in an online game with my kids. It wasn't virtual reality, it was Minecraft. And I was moving through this virtual world. And the building that we were in set on fire. And everyone was panicking and trying to get out of this building. And I started messaging the moderator of the server going, can you do something? Because there's children in this building. And they're getting really upset, like they're getting trapped. And they were getting upset. And my son just said to me, Mom, just turn it off. And it's like that in samsara. We forget that we just need to take off the goggles. We just need to escape from how we're seeing things. So beyond that escape, ultimate reality itself, how a Buddha sees, of course, from where we are, it's beyond our knowing. It's beyond our imagination, perhaps. It can't be put into words. It's not conceptual. It's not accessible within the structures of object, subject, thinking, so we can't access it that way. It's not really me here, everything else there. It's beyond separation in that way and space, and it's beyond time in that, it's beyond the concept of time in that way. So how a Buddha sees things can't fit into concepts and words because of that. It can't fit in. But instead, the Buddha didn't try to describe his experience necessarily in words. He gave us things that we can practice to transform our own consciousness, our own way of seeing, so that we can start to see through the delusion a little bit. So he taught a living Dharma. He taught practices and gave symbols that directly change and transform our mind and our consciousness so that we can learn to see reality more clearly. So the last theme, we looked at ethics, we looked at the precepts given by the Buddha that train and refine the mind and emotions in that way so that we can move more in line with reality. And in this theme, we're looking at symbols. We're looking at symbols. So symbols can evoke a direct experience. Symbols are not descriptions or pictures of something conceptual or worldly. They're not that. They evoke an experience. So I'm going to quote Bhante Sangharachita, the founder of the movement, about how symbols evoke the direct experience of enlightenment. This direct experience, above and beyond words, above and beyond thought, above and beyond the conscious mind, even the conscious personality, can be evoked, can almost be conjured up, releasing some partial glimpse, some distant reflection with the help of symbols. So we're going to look in this theme at an ancient symbol, the Tibetan Wheel of Life. So we've got this Wheel of Life. There's lots of traditional Tibetan images, and this one is a modern image by an order member, Sadaraja, I think I'm right. So this symbol is fantastic because that is the entirety of existence there in that symbol. So we've got inside the wheel, inside the central wheel, we've got samsara. So we've got limited, conditioned, worldly, unenlightened existence, us, inside the big circle. And the whole of that, the whole of samsara is held by that really scary figure. You can see the scary face at the top, the scary lizardy tail at the bottom. So that's the Lord of Death. And we've got a mirror on the shrine, which also is held by the Lord of Death. So this Lord of Death represents the truth of impermanence and death, and looks terrifying, but actually is a protector of the Dharma, because this shows that samsara is not the whole story. There's something beyond. There's the deathless, if only we could see it. So beyond samsara, we have the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni, pointing to the spiritual path, pointing to the path to enlightenment outside of samsara. Okay, so the Wheel of Life, it's a living symbol, and it applies in any and every moment. So this shows us our current state of existence. It shows us our samsara prison. And it's a map and it's instructions on how to make our great escape. Sangharachita gave a really great talk on this in the late 60s. It's called Creative Symbols of the Tantric Path to Enlightenment. And I would really recommend that talk. It's fantastic. I'll be quoting bits of that as we go through. And what he said is, we can see this symbol as a mirror, which is why we've got this mirror on the shrine. We can see it as a magic mirror, maybe even a crystal ball. So the mirror shows us ourself and our own nature in samsara. So the first circle at the very center, this one here, this central circle, where have I got? Yeah. This central circle, that drives the wheel round. So in that central circle, if you can't see it, you can maybe see it on your little cards. There are 3 animals inside that circle. And those 3 animals are the forces in us, in ourselves, that keep us trapped in the wheel. They keep us trapped. Traditionally, they're called greed, hatred, and delusion. And it's a cock, a snake, and a pig. Greed, hatred, and delusion. So the pig symbolizes delusion because sometimes it's got its ears down over its eyes and it can't see clearly how things really are. So you might remember from the intro course, Buddhist wisdom teachings on the 3 lakshanas, the wisdom teachings of the marks of existence, describing how things really are, not how we see things, but how things really are. So 3 marks of existence: the truth of impermanence. Everything is utterly impermanent, and we looked at that as we can change. Insubstantiality, so everything is so impermanent that there's no separate things and no separate me. Interconnectedness, we looked at. And unsatisfactoriness. Because of all of that, we can't actually get everything sorted out and get samsara to work for us permanently and ultimately. So happiness comes from within. So we remember those teachings. But the pig is our spiritual ignorance because we don't see things that way. We think things are separate, substantial, including ourselves, and we think we can get permanent satisfaction by just getting things how we want. So we centralize around this separate me with everything else out there, and it can't work. We all suffer because we can't all be the center of the universe. It can't work out. So that's the pig, the delusion, and it drives the wheel, it drives the wheel. And the other 2 animals in there, they come with that delusion. So we've got the cock, which is greed, which is pulling in, protecting, trying to get it all sorted for me, for this me. Getting to the end of my to-do list, rearranging life, rearranging other people to suit me. Basically, wanting a different experience than the one that I have. And the snake is hatred. It's a strong word, but the traditional term is hatred. And it means pushing everything away that we don't want. People who annoy me or upset me, anything that can threaten this me, irritation, avoidance, overwhelm. Basically, not wanting the experience that I have. And then round we go. They bite each other's tails because we don't get one without the other. They bite each other's tails and they drive the wheel, and we all have those forces in us. So they're the basic drives in us. They drive our current state of being. So Bhante Sangharachita, he says we can look into this symbol, look into the wheel of life, and it's like looking into a magic mirror. And he said we can take an honest look with courage, and if we're looking properly, it's a shock. So he says, we actually look into the mirror and we see not the allegedly human face that we expected, but the face of a bird, of a cock, the face of a reptile, a snake, the face of an animal, a pig. That's us. We see just that in the mirror. We look in the mirror and we see our own nature, and this realization is the beginning of spiritual life. We see ourselves as we are, we accept ourselves as we are, we go on from there. So that's the quote. So there's no need to despair. We begin the spiritual life. We're looking and we begin the spiritual life. Okay, and then the next circle on the way out from the center, this circle round here with these people in, going up and down. So we have half of the circle, we have joyful, happy-looking people going upwards, and the other half, we have suffering beings with really sad, suffering faces tumbling down. So this circle represents the law of karma, and that we can exercise choice. So again, Bhante says, we look into the mirror again, and we see that we are faced with 2 alternatives. We can either go up or we can go down. It's as simple as this. We can either evolve or not evolve or regress. The choice is before us, and it's before us every minute of the day. Every situation in which we find ourselves, shall we go up or shall we go down? Shall we ascend or shall we descend? It's up to us to decide. Okay, so we've looked in the mirror, we've seen ourselves where we are, We've seen what's driving us, and we see that we do have a choice. Okay, so how do we do it? How do we choose, and how do we escape? So the very outer wheel, all the way around the outside, with all the different segments in it, that is the detailed mechanism of how it all works. It's called the Nidana chain. It's the chain of conditioned co-production. In a way, a simple way of seeing it is it's cause and effect round the outside there. So this applies in every moment, and traditionally it applies between lifetimes. So it depicts birth and rebirth. And down at the bottom, at the very bottom, is the gap. Down at the bottom is the point of freedom, the great escape, because that's where we have choice. So the Buddha discovered in great depth, in detail, all the conditioned mechanisms at play in the human mind. The whole mechanism of conditioned existence, how the mind operates moment to moment and lifetime to lifetime, it's all described there in that chain. So I haven't got time to go fully into it because it's everything. And we'll say more about it in the series, but just I will say something in outline because I love that. I love that chain. I love that teaching because everything that happens, it tells us what's going on and it tells us what we can do. It's incredibly practical. So in outline, the first thing starts here with what we call spiritual ignorance. We don't see how things really are. I'll just go around quickly. We develop tendencies in the mind. We develop consciousness. We have a body and a mind. And then we have senses. We develop our senses. And then we have contact with the senses. So our senses come into contact with a sense object in the world. And this leads to the really important bit, which is feeling or Vedana, and it's depicted by someone with an arrow in their eye. So we have contact, our senses have contact with something in the world, and then that we feel something about that. So we either feel that that's pleasant or that's unpleasant. And that feeling depends on everything that's gone before. It's completely conditioned by everything that's happened before. So we get this Vedana, we get feeling from contact, depending on all that back there. So up to that point, we have got no choice. We have what we have, we feel what we feel, it's here. That's what we've got. Then we can make a choice. So this can lead straight on to craving, and craving is the next bit, which is someone taking a drink, being offered a drink, because sometimes craving is called thirst, you know, that feeling of like always being thirsty. And craving here means both greed and hatred that we talked about before. So we might want more of this pleasant feeling, or we might want the unpleasant feeling to go away. And if we go into craving in that way, this leads to grasping, and we're going round the wheel again. It leads on further into rebirth, aging and death, and we go round and round the wheel with even more ignorance next time and deeper habits. So that's what we can do if we're just following a reactive habitual pattern. Or at the bottom, we've got the famous gap. So we can develop awareness, we can find the gap. We don't go habitually into craving. We make a conscious choice and we can start to move off the wheel. So that's our point of escape in this series. That's the gap, that's our way to escape. So we can start to see with awareness what's going on. We can start to get off the wheel. We can start to escape beyond conditioned habitual perspectives. And ultimately, on the highest level, we can see the reality beyond. So on that very high level, we could look into the magic mirror again, and we could see the whole of conditioned existence, all of that, for what it really is. So another quote by Bhante. We see that conditioned existence that comes into being through causes and conditions, is not only impermanent, but ultimately unreal. But we see at the same time, in the depths of the unreality of conditioned existence, gleaming like a pearl at the bottom of the sea, the real, the ultimately absolutely real. It is not even separate from the unreal, but constitutes another dimension of it. So that's Sangha. You might love that, or you might feel that that's a bit out of reach. So throughout the theme, we're going to hear about different ways that we can make a start at all that on our own level to escape through the gap from the wheel. So we're going to hear about what happens as we go through the gap, the upward spiral towards freedom, positive mental states of joy, bliss, clarity and connection that lead us on upwards towards awakening. And later on in the series, we'll be looking at the ultimate goal of awakening, the goal of Buddhahood, and asking, well, how can we make connection with that? How can we connect with that? Okay, so that's later in the series. So this outer rim is that's the chain of conditioned mechanisms in the human mind. We can make a choice, we can work with karma, and we can start to escape this chain. And as we do that, according to our karmic actions, according to our choices, we start to transform our experience. Things start to change. We start to move between different states of mind. We start to inhabit different realms of being, we might say. So on the wheel, this layer of the wheel around here, these are all the different realms that we can inhabit. So the wheel's got 6 different realms. And throughout the series of talks, we're going to look in more detail at each of these realms. So I'm just going to introduce them here. These realms, they can be seen as different states of mind that we can be in from moment to moment, and that we can dwell in for periods of time, depending on our previous actions, or literally where we are reborn lifetime after lifetime. So I'll just whiz through them. We've got the heavenly realm of the gods, and they live in a world of pure pleasure and delight. We've got a world of the anti-gods, who are called the Ashuras, and they're fierce and warlike, aggressive egos. So we could maybe think of beings that dwell in that realm in today's world. We've got the world of hungry ghosts, called Pretas. They've got huge swollen bellies and teeny tiny mouths, and they try to get nourishment, but the food and drink turns into fire and knives in their mouths and their bellies. So they never can get satisfaction or nourishment. So that's the world of very severe addiction and habit. There's the hell realm, and that's the realm of intense mental suffering, severe mental distress. There's the world of animals, who are depicted very peacefully, and they're just concerned with basic sensual instincts, food, sex, sleep, the animals. Then we've got the human realm, and the humans in the realm, they're shown engaging in cultural activities, working, trading, meditating, reading, talking, and finally off to the cremation ground. So we can look into the magic mirror again. We can see our face in the mirror, see these realms, and see ourselves. Again, a quote from Bhante. We see where we are at any given moment or over any given period of time. Sometimes when we look in the mirror, we see a happy, smiling, or peaceful, cheerful face. We see the face of a god. Sometimes we see an angry, aggressive face, the face of an Ashura. And sometimes when we look in the mirror, we see a famished, hollow-eyed face with a pinched mouth and dissatisfied expression, the face of a hungry ghost. On other occasions, we see an unhappy, miserable, even tormented face, the face of someone in hell. And again, when we look, sometimes we see the face with a long snout or whiskers, or big sharp teeth or a tail, the face of an animal. And sometimes when we look in the mirror, we see just an ordinary human face. But whatever we see at any time, any given moment, whatever we see in the mirror, we see ourselves. So we see which realm we're in, and we're aiming to dwell in the human realm. Escape from the wheel is only possible from the human realm. The human realm has got enough of a balance of suffering and pleasure, enough suffering to motivate us to practice and make change and transform, but not so much to overwhelm and paralyze. And the human realm has got a balance of karma and karma vipaka. And this is really important to know the difference for everyday practice. So vipaka is the result of previous karma, previous actions. So this is the states that we experience that come from previous actions. So our experience right now, we've got it, we have it, it's here. We're not choosing it right now, it's vipaka. It's coming from all of that stuff back there. But what we do next, that is karmic, so that determines the future vipaka. So we're not doing anything wrong if we're experiencing suffering, but we can do something next that will help, and it's really important to know the difference between karma and vipaka. So in the human realm, we can make choices, we can create fresh karma, we can shape our future. And we visit other realms, maybe even the hell realm, but it's partial and it's temporary. So I've got a personal example of my visits to the hell realm in the past have been through anxiety, worry, severe kind of fight and flight states during really dark times, difficult times. But haven't been totally trapped there. I've still been partly in the human realm because there's enough awareness to really know that what I do will make a difference, to trust karma. So taking really small steps to create some positive change and trusting that. So I remember a particular time at Mitra study evening, standing in front of the shrine, and I was overwhelmed really by fear, anxiety, a kind of dread. And I stood in front of the shrine and I was really suffering badly in the hell realm. And we were chanting the positive precepts, and I was filled with hatred and a real wish to retaliate. And I just decided, I will not hate, I will not cause harm, I will trust karma, I will trust the precepts, I'll continue to follow a noble path, and this will bring benefits. So I just kind of like dug in for the long game, and I was like, this will do. And it's working out well, you know, like it's working well. Not that long after I joined the order, during an objectively, externally, really difficult time in my life. So we do visit the other realms, but we're not trapped. They might be really severe states of suffering, and for some of us, they might be actually extreme highs of intoxication even. But we can gather awareness. We're not totally consumed. It's partial. We've still kind of got a toe in the human realm. And we all have, or we wouldn't be here tonight. So we all trust karma to some extent, and that's why we've come. So in this series, we're going to explore all these different realms of existence, from the depths of hell to the heights of heaven. And we're going to ask ourselves, where do I dwell and where do I visit? So this is a really solid traditional Buddhist symbol, and we're going to be approaching it from quite a contemporary outlook. We're going to say, well, what do these realms look like in modern society and in the world today? How can we practice these traditional teachings in today's world and in our lives? So each week, we're going to suggest ideas for home practice to support progress. And we're going to pose some practical challenges, inviting ourselves to notice and reflect on our experience and how does this symbol affect me. And we're going to plan our great escape. We're going to make a plan to escape towards awakening. So that's all later in the series. That's what we're going to do. And tonight we can just make a little start. We can slow down the wheel, okay? So the wheel turns so fast. Quite often, we can't really see what's going on from moment to moment, so we really need to slow it down. So this week, we're going to look at slowing down the animals that are driving the wheel. So awareness, mindfulness, is what slows down the wheel. It widens the gap. It gives us a chance to choose an action, to choose positive karmic action, rather than just reacting without thinking. Okay, so awareness really transforms delusion. It slows down the pig that's trotting around the middle of the wheel. So I've got some ideas for home practice for this week that you might want to do. Okay, so the first one is mindfulness practice, mindfulness meditation, the mindfulness of breathing. This is the practice for this. So could you do the mindfulness of breathing this week, either at all if you don't have a regular meditation practice, or more regularly if you do, or for a longer period perhaps at the weekend, and see how that works, see what effect that has. So the mindfulness of breathing. Another really good practice to develop more awareness is to reduce input. So maybe have periods offline, periods without your phone, watch less, scroll less. Just let the mind become less distracted, less input for the mind. That's really good to develop awareness and slow down that pig. And maybe quite an advanced practice, sounds simple, but an advanced practice, sitting and doing nothing. Can we set a timer and just do nothing for a certain time? It's not as easy as it seems, but it's fantastic what we learn if we do it. Just allowing the mind to slow down, allowing the mind to settle down. Or book a retreat, go on a retreat. That's a fantastic way of just giving the mind a bit of space to settle. Okay, so that's the pig. And the cock, greed and craving. So craving can be slowed down, that cock can be slowed down, craving can be transformed directly through cultivating states like simplicity, contentment, and generosity. If we cultivate these positive states, it really transforms craving. So again, some ideas for things that you might want to do this week. Could you do a generous action this week or even every day? One simple action. Maybe keeping a gratitude journal, that can really change craving, really bring things around. Rejoice out loud in your friends, fantastic. Or do something skillful that just gives you delight, pure delight just for its own sake. Could we do something like that this week to transform some of the craving? And hatred, aversion, irritation, ill will, the snake. This is addressed through loving kindness, through metta. So practicing the metta bhavana meditation specifically. So could you do the metta bhavana this week at all if you don't have a practice, or more regularly again, or for a longer period? Okay, so that's a few ideas of things that you might want to do this week. Making our small beginnings, slowing down the wheel, taming our animals. So ultimately, we're preparing for our great big escape from samsara completely, and we could look into the magic mirror again. So Bhante says, just to finish, and what do we see now? This time, we see the Buddha. We see enlightenment itself. We see our own original face. We experience directly what we truly and essentially are in the depths of our being. Then we look for the last time in the mirror, and now what do we see? We don't see anything at all. We don't even see the mirror. The mirror itself has disappeared. There's nothing to see. There's nobody to see it. And yet, at the same time, mysteriously, everything is seen. Everything is heard. Everything is understood. Everything is realized. We can say that the symbolism of the Tibetan wheel of life has been transcended. We can say that the symbolism of the Tibetan wheel of life has been fulfilled.